Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Magic Mics, proudly sponsored by CoolStuffInc.com, CardHoarder.com, Alter Sleeves, as well as Twitch subscribers and Patreon supporters just like you. I am Evan Irwin, and we get started each week by saying hello to my two co-hosts, MTG Nerd Girl.
Hey, guys.
Ruben Bressler.
What's going on, everybody?
Hey, it's our first official show of 2022. And yes,
That's right.
did have to look at the date in the bottom to make sure I said that right, because we're still in March 2020, part 700 something. But that's fine. If you missed our pre-show, subscribers to this channel get access to our NSFW version early, as well as those on Patreon for $5 and up. We also kick it off, of course, with our first pick in our giveaway. Get your chance at $50 for anything at CoolStuffInc.com by typing !raffle in the chat. But sub first to get 2 chances to win and support your favorite streamer with your suggestions at the end of the show to see who we raid tonight. That is thanks, of course, to our sponsor, CoolStuffInc.com, where you can find cool stuff in stock every day. And our first pick for this week and for the year, really, was a announcement from Hasbro that came out yesterday. Hasbro names Chris Cox as Chief Executive Officer. Now, unfortunately, the CEO of Hasbro had passed away last year, and we're waiting for the interim. And I did not really see this one coming. But when you take a company and you say you're going to double its revenue in 5 years, and you do that in like 3.5 to 4. It's not the craziest idea that you're going to get a super awesome job offer like this.
That's definitely true. And that's been the case. Not even close, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Chris Cox came from the world of Microsoft and Leapfrog. Unfamiliar with gaming pretty much in general outside of, what kindergartners play or, Candy Crush kind of stuff. Which is games, but when you come to Wizards of the Coast and start managing things like Magic the Gathering and Dungeons and Dragons, it's a whole nother kettle of fish. And to call what the job Chris Cox has done over the last 3-4 years a success is underselling it drastically. In terms of bottom line, business, and shareholder expectations, Chris Cox has done miracles for the shareholders of Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast. And so when Brian Goldner, the previous CEO of Hasbro, passed away, it pretty much died in his office. I mean, he took sick leave on a Tuesday and died Wednesday.
Jeez.
He had cancer for a long time, and it was a very sad story. He was young, at early 50s at the oldest, I think.
Right.
And so if you're looking for a successor, and also Brian Goldner had been a very good at that job. Mm-hmm. By all accounts, he was a well-loved and professional and, all of the things you want in a chief executive officer. So now you're looking for a replacement for this, kind of workaholic, but like paragon of the platonic ideal of a CEO. There aren't a ton of those, but you've got Chris Cox right there, and it makes sense. It just everything kind of comes together to make sense. I'm a little worried going forward what's going to happen with the big chair at Wizards, but we'll see.
It does note under his leadership, revenue of Wizards of the Coast has more than doubled, surpassing $1 billion in 2021. And some of the, being able to kind of look back now and see some of the big changes that happened and some of the attitudes that changed. A lot of this was started with, I think, sort of the fire philosophy. Remember, this was the Throne of Eldraine went completely haywire on the power level of stuff. This was created MTG Arena noting that Magic just doesn't have the experience necessary to bring in the money that it could if you could bring the right experience to them. Letting secret lairs happen, telling someone who had been shot down for years. I feel convinced of this. This doesn't just pop up because, Chris was like, hey, shoot me an idea. I was like, no, this was probably somebody's, little weird idea, but they were like, it's going to hurt stores. It fights against From the Vault or whatever. And oh my God, we're selling singles now. What's that going to do? And he's like, I don't care. Just go. And and it was super crazy successful. We're selling $30 packs of Magic now. That's insane. The fact that we even have sets, that we just called more expensive. We just say Modern Horizons is more expensive because reasons. It's the same paper, it's the same trees, it's the same ink. And when you see Double Masters 2 or whatever later this year, the same trees, the same ink. When they're selling you a secret lair for like $40 for like 5 cards, when they sold you an entire commander deck for $100, and half of that deck was foil. I mean, for God's sake, just think of like how these numbers are just wildly going around crazy, and you can't necessarily tell what's happening to the things like the serialization of cards, special editions of cards, crazy super expensive rare versions of cards, all of this stuff that just was not kosher for 20 something years, 25 years. A president who said absolutely not, the stores are going to be the number one thing. Competitive play has to be very important, and competitive play has been left in the dust. And there's a little bit there. WPN still exists. F&M is not gone. There's a few, stuff we're going to talk about next year. But, again, the big term of you may not like it, but it's going to make Wizards a ton of money, that was always on the table. All of this money was out there on the table. You just needed someone who said okay, who said it's okay to go after this money. It's okay to stop selling all this product directly to stores, for example, to streamline your operations to sell to large individual vendors. This would be the Amazon deal, the Walmart deal. Again, stores don't like it. I'm not saying I like it. I'm saying that, again, this is, stockholder expectations, bringing in large revenues. He did all of those things, and congratulations. And I don't necessarily like it, but that's where we're at.
Yeah, I mean, we've definitely transitioned away from Magic being a community game, fostered by like the love of the game, and now it is just, like you said, as commercial as we can get. We are starting to cut out the stores. I do hope that the store stuff in particular kind of reverses, or at the very least stops, because if we have no stores to play at, this game is going to go drastically downhill.
Is it? Because I don't think they care. I'm not trying to be weird or cynical or mean. I'm saying that
I agree.
There's a pressure of, I think, of the premium stores. They want premium experiences, the highest, the best stores you can get. But that every store can't be premium. Like literally, physically, they can't all be premium for a whole variety of reasons and metrics that they have. But, I don't know. I feel like it always feels like Wizards has the left hand not talking to the right hand. The people who do all the stuff for the stores have nothing to do with the people who are making all the decisions as to where the marketing dollars are going for events in store or online or wherever. The whole MPL thing just seemed to leave stores just sitting completely in the dust. And yeah, I don't know where it goes from now. What I would love to see happen, again, is what I have heard rumored happen, which is you just roll back the clock. You just say, Pro Tour's coming back, Pro Tour Hall of Fame's coming back, all that stuff. You have PTQs at your stores. That's how we push the stores into the competitive play, and
that's really far into the future, though.
I mean, rolling back OP will help, but if we continue to streamline direct sales, that will still hurt the stores. Now, you guys know me. I always argue actually for the companies making the right decision for them as far as coverage or whatever. Mm-hmm. I like to think, I don't necessarily think, I hope that they're wrong in a lot of these cases, but it's like, hey, it's your money. If you think that coverage is not worth it, then you have a right to think that. Sure. But when it comes to this, I do honestly think that if Magic prices out the stores and people don't have a place to play, the game will then go into decline, at least to some extent, and that will hurt their pocket. Which
I agree.
I think it's in their best interest to keep the stores around.
I think you can't live through the pandemic we just lived through and said stores are necessary for Magic to succeed. I think it's nice. I think they're still there. I'm not saying they're on a linchpin. I'm not saying they ain't making their money on cards. And I'm not saying that Wizards is abandoning cardboard in any shape or form. I'm saying that, like, it was mind-boggling. The only way you could have ever proven that competitive play doesn't impact Magic that much was to make the entire world shut down, right? Make all of the events stop. And all of the events stopped, and they didn't do anything but make more money. And I mean, make a lot of money. I mean, everything sold out. It's crazy.
A lot of that is Arena, which, has its own set of problems. But also, I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that it is a pandemic. People think that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. They're buying this product because they have nothing else to do. People shop when they're bored or whatever, or busy. But let's say we get out of the pandemic and then people go back to going out and doing things and the stores are no longer supported. And the stores either go out of business or they stop carrying Magic products and stop hosting FNMs and stop doing things because it's not profitable for them. That's a totally different story, I think.
It's tough.
I think I want to pull it back to the bigger picture here, which is where does Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast go from here now that Chris Cox is manning the big ship? He's running the Armada, not just the ship.
Right.
I think that this job makes more sense for somebody like Chris Cox than CEO of Wizards or president of Wizards. Sure. I think CEO of Hasbro makes more sense given his history with, Microsoft Xbox games, Halo, Fable, that kind of history makes more sense as a Hasbro gig than a Magic gig. So we could get someone who is more like the previous CEO or president of Wizards, who was Greg Leeds.
Yep, Leeds for a long time.
Long time. And he was always the tradition, keep it local, that kind of thing. I think that is a thing that can happen, but we don't know. Until we see who gets hired in the position of president of Wizards, we won't know for a fact. Chris Cox manning the ship at Hasbro, I think, oddly, is better for Magic in a number of ways. One, that's the job that he should have anyway. Like, that type of person should be CEO of the big conglomerate rather than trying to run the Magic D&D building.
Well, they still did a great job while they were at it, right? So
absolutely.
High five. Yeah.
Oh, he's great at the job that he did. I think he's going to be even better at this job, which only means more money. It's going to be really interesting to see who they select for the replacement for this position, because the last two, Chris Cox and Greg Leeds, couldn't be more different.
The last thing I'll note on this is that the breadcrumbs of these changes and the culture changes and the thinking changes, are all on the website. Like, all of those old articles, and you can see it. Someone pointed out the other day about, I think it was Fallen Empires or something, or Homelands or something, that said they stopped making multiple art images for cards because it became too confusing to remember what the cards were or whatever. And you look at now and it's like an absolute joke with the brojillion amounts of secret layers and God knows what else. But again, that type of thinking was just like, once it was cemented, it didn't change. Under the Greg Leeds, world, once things were created, they were, columns that were never to be moved or shifted. And for good or bad, sometimes it's good when that stuff changes. I like the creativity that secret layers and collector packs have given us. I don't like the expense, of course, but that's just business.
Do you think so? One of the biggest things is the secret layers. So that's a good point to what I was trying to make, as far as, do you think the secret layers will be as popular if people don't have a place to go show them off? If OP doesn't come back, if the stores are no longer being supported or playing Magic? Yeah,
because they're investment vehicles.
But are
they if nobody wants them anymore? Like, if nobody can show them off, what is the value?
They're still
selling. The difference between...
Because of the pandemic.
Right.
People think there's a place for them to use them.
Where are we showing them off? If we're showing them off at events, that's one thing. But if we're showing them off to our friends at the kitchen table, it's irrelevant.
Or you're playing online or whatever. What I'm saying is...
Or the local game store.
Right.
Nobody's playing Secret Layers online. That's not a thing.
Right. Well, they play with a webcam or whatever. But what I'm saying is, again, for me, Secret Layer is so much of an investment vehicle type product that, Wizards is never going to say it is, but Wizards has it on the survey, for example, that a lot of people do. And I mean, I got Secret Layers up there on the shelf that I got kids in college, and that's expensive. And
no one's arguing that Secret Layers aren't money.
Sure.
I think that the argument is, if they completely shutter WPN and all competitive play, does that
will they still be money?
Right. Exactly.
And I think that's such an extreme, because it would be like, we saw the world end, quote unquote, and game stores, many did survive, but there were lots that didn't, but there were many that did survive and did do what it takes. And I mean, CSI lost a store, it's, everyone's affected in some ways, but, in other ways, customers did do the pick up and, drop off, and did come to the curb, and then do the thing where you have to phone them to call them in so they can do the buys and all that stuff, So anyway, I don't want to get mired in it. We need to move on, but, that was definitely exciting to both hear $1 billion worth of revenue plus, and Chris Cox to get that promotion. And we move on to from the first pick to gather the townsfolk, thanks to our sponsor, cardhoarder.com. Bringing that on the screen right now. Offering the best inventory prices and delivery of cards for Magic Online, which I have played more Magic Online in the past 2 weeks. Like the
Vintage Cube is great.
Years. It's so good.
Everybody loves the Vintage Cube.
It's so good. And it also has like the weird cards from Conspiracy and the weird cards from Commander. And
there's a bunch of misses. There's a bunch of misses in this cube. But there's also a bunch of hits. There's a bunch of surprising cards that I love.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. So either way, for Gather the Townsfolk, we start here with William Huey Jensen, who had tweeted that in a couple weeks he started as #WotC staff in the position of Director of Play Programs. He's very excited about this new chapter, even if it's a little overwhelming to imagine not playing in any more Magic tournaments. He says, I will try my absolute best to make sure that everyone can continue to enjoy the game we all love. Magic has been a huge part of my life for 25 years, and hopefully it will stay that way for 25 more. And that's just the best damn thing I've heard about Magic in terms of longevity, you know what I mean? In terms of investing in competitive play, investing in organized play, not necessarily competitive, just organized. This is getting a bunch of Commander players together is organized play, you know? So getting people together, rewarding them for doing so. There is an event coming, I think it's at the end of January, the end of this month, that's where you get the Conjurer's Closet for free for showing up. This was an event that was supposed to happen in like October, but they bumped it because Double Feature got bumped as well. And so that's an organized play effort that if you come in and play Commander on that day, you get a free Conjurer's Closet promo, and that's great. But stuff like that is just what we need. You know what I mean? Like we need to work on both sides.
Are we, man, the pressure on Huey is enormous. Look at our Twitch chat right now.
Yeah.
While we were talking about $1 billion in the first pick, everyone was talking about Huey. When are they going to talk about Huey taking over?
Yeah.
Huey there's a number of things happening when Huey comes in to take over this position. One is, I feel like this is the biggest job a professional Magic player has been asked to take over at Wizards of the Coast.
I mean, you could argue
directly
Worth Wolpert
hired specifically.
Yeah. Worth Wolpert kind of got put into the position.
Worth got hired into the Magic Online guru position. Right. I guess that's pretty comparable. But most of the time, you get hired low and then you get promoted a bunch.
Right.
This is a pretty high to have not worked in the building.
Right.
This is a pretty big step up. So I'm not saying Huey can't do it. Huey has a ton of experience working with, for example, Pinnacle. He lived on the island for several years, setting up that website and all that stuff. He knows the game. He's a wizened and intelligent man. There's no issues in my mind, but the number of mouths he has to feed, the number of people he has to please, is astronomical.
I mean, I don't know, from everything I've seen, it's not super clear what the job entails or what that is going to look like. Is he going to just be the mouthpiece for Wizards? Like the, what's his name?
Like Helene used to be, you mean?
Or Sean?
No, I'm sorry. He does like the podcast. He delivers. He did the Alchemy podcast.
Oh, like did Daniel Holtz do that one this time?
No,
Blake
Rasmussen.
Right.
So like people give Blake a bunch of grief every single time there's an announcement, but like Blake he's just the announcement guy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Is Huey going to be the face of organized play, but without a whole lot of power? Like is Huey going to be making the decisions, or is Huey just Blake for organized play?
When you're in a situation with that much pressure, that much money, that much people above you and people below you, generally when you're sort of brought into those positions, you have a whole lot of sway. And you want what you sway on to do really well, because if the first thing you try sours, it's probably just going to just sink you. There's way too much politics in the Wizards buildings anyway that I've heard about. That's, whatever. And so my hope is he's given lots of power and lots of leeway. And I don't know if he's going to be the one, scribbling down exactly how tiebreakers work or whatever. But, the idea that he could say, we should bring back this large circuit of X, Y, and Z. We should bring back Command Fest. We should bring back Grand Prix. We should bring back Pro Tours. Here's why, here's what it costs, and here's when we can do it.
Right.
I don't know if he can do that. I don't know if he's that guy.
I don't know if he can do that either.
I'm not sure.
It's kind of nebulous at this point exactly how much power, to your point, he's actually going to have.
Right.
Is this just sort of is this window dressing? Or, right. I mean, I don't imagine Huey gets hired and stays long if it is.
Right.
I mean, it's probably great job security.
It's true.
There's
no pro magic happening right now.
I don't know what Huey was doing before. I mean, there's lots of people who go and work for Wizards and who have quit content creation, quit being a pro player, work for R&D, Cheon, and there's a ton of people who've taken that path with Wizards. So this could just be Huey's next step. That doesn't necessarily mean Huey is the lead and creator of the new organized play system.
Right.
But the perception appears to be that everyone thinks he is.
I hope it's true, but I have serious doubts that that's the case. I don't see Wizards handing everything that they've done to remove us from organized play. I don't think they're going to just be like, okay, super pro player who wants everything the old way. Take the reins.
Chris Cox is out of the building for an hour, and Huey comes in and says, "All right,
we're
turn the lights back on, everybody.
This is ridiculous. Put back up the posters. We're doing this.
That would be great. But I really
feel
don't think so.
Right. I feel like there's probably somewhere between the person who picks out F&M promos and the person who can say the $1 million Magic the Gathering Pro Tour is back and running. I don't know where he falls in that spectrum. I don't, and I'm hoping it's closer to the $1 million thing than the F&M promo thing.
We're never going to get Helen. That's never going to be a thing.
Right.
We can always be like, oh man, I sure wish we had the person in charge that we could talk to and we get direct answers from. That's never going to happen again.
Right.
Huey is probably one of, if not the best choice for the kind of personality that can get stuff done in an environment that is so ingrained in itself like Wizards of the Coast is. So if he has the power, I believe that he can move mountains.
So Zack Stella had mentioned here that on January 11th, the Building World's Kamigawa Neon Dynasty, he's going to sit down with Jimmy Wong, with Daniel Holt, who was my previous employee, and he's great and awesome, and he loves Kamigawa as much, if not more so than I ever could, which is a lot. Setley, Emily Ting, and Lou the Vampiro to talk about their favorite planes, which is going to be insane. So they have key dates here of 111 is the Creative Roundtable, 111 through 121 are the Kamigawa short histories. I'm guessing those are going to be on the website. 124 through 126 is the Kamigawa fiction, and 127 is, I guess they're just going to tell us a crap ton of stuff that day and just bust out some Kamigawa goodness at the end of this month. I'll take it.
Nice.
Very excited for Kamigawa. I think that it's as we've talked about, it's a unique situation where no one in the business side was clamoring for more Kamigawa stuff, but everyone in the community was. And so this is sort of the, photo negative of our first pick, which is Kamigawa is a labor of love. And we're going to get, the business side, and we're going to sell a bunch of things and we're going to monetize a bunch of stuff. But the things we're monetizing are Kamigawa because the fans wanted Kamigawa.
Well, if you are a true, I guess, super duper duper fan, Beedles and Grimm, or Beedle and Grimm's rather. This is the company responsible for lavish D&D accessories, which Ruben, you can tell us all about, I'm sure.
Sure.
They have decided to create a bundle of gear. This is the $500 platinum edition of stuff, and I think $200 or $300 regular, scumbag version. You have, well, it's like, these are unique deck boxes. These are unique.
Oh my God.
Stuffed animals, backpacks. This is where they have the LED playmat, but they didn't show us the LED playmat, even though it's literally the first LED playmat I've ever heard of in my life. And they said maybe it has to do with artwork or something they can't show yet. I guess we'll see. But like here is just a bunch of stuff. It's no cards. There's no cards involved here. It's just like stuff that's attached to Kamigawa. And it's a question mark. This is a question mark. This is a whale type product for, the whales. We haven't seen something like this since Throne of Eldraine gift edition or super edition or whatever they called it, that had like uncut sheet parts in it and stuff. But this looks really sweet.
So Beedle and Grimm is a accessories company founded by, among others, Matthew Lillard, who you might know as Shaggy from the Scooby-Doo movies. He was in Hackers. He is a humongous Dungeons and Dragons fan, and his D&D character is named Beedle. And so Beedle and Grimm's was the business that he ran in character in his home game. And then he and his business partners were like, what if we had really bougie coins and props and letters that supported the books that came out from Wizards of the Coast? And so you can buy the Platinum Edition of Descent into Avernus and get soul coins and things like that. You can buy the Platinum Edition of like Waterdeep Dragon Heist and get, metal coins and really nicely filigreed letterhead and stuff like that. And it seems like those have been going gangbusters. People buy those all the time. And so now they're branching over into Magic. And so you're getting all these fancy accessories in Magic now. A deck box, a plush, a backpack, an LED playmat. It is definitely a whale product. The silver edition is the baseline, probably $200, and then the platinum you said was $500.
Yep.
Which will include some more fancier, higher end additional things. Right. But yeah, Beedle and Grimm's, they make really high quality stuff. And they are heavily invested in Wizards of the Coast, and Wizards of the Coast is heavily invested in them. I think it's a really cool idea.
Now they're not the same ones that did the backpack, right? Wasn't there like a $500 backpack we saw?
Right. That's not the same company. Backpack was a different company.
Okay.
I see. This was, and this is where if the LED playmat is like one with nothing, it's just going to be the greatest, sickest troll of all time. But so stupid. I know it's silly, but either way, again, how much these things are going to be worth after they're released? How much is going to be worth as a packaged thing a year from now? Are they ever going to do this again? Are the sales good enough? We don't know. But it's really interesting, and this type of sort of licensing, this type of sort of extra products built around a release, it just makes everything like feel bigger. It makes everything feel more important and interesting and cool because, there's not only just what you're getting in the game, but all these extra things attached to it, which make it really sweet.
Nice.
Let's move on.
And if you're interested in more of Beedle, as played by Matthew Lillard, was recently in D&D Beyond's new show, which is essentially competitive one-on-one D&D, where like players play their characters against each other.
Okay,
and it's like the spikiest thing I've ever seen. So you can check that out. But they have like professional commentary and stuff. Yeah.
Can I ask one side note question of you, Ruben? When you think Matthew Lillard, sorry if I said the name wrong, do you really think Scooby-Doo?
So
am I the only one that thinks SLC Punk?
Yeah, I don't think of SLC Punk.
Look, you're a real one if you think SLC Punk. All right,
that's the only thing that came to mind. I didn't even know he was in Scooby-Doo.
He was in Scooby-Doo. He was in Scanner or Hackers. He was in Scream.
Hack the Planet is the big one.
Hack the Planet is pretty close.
Yeah.
Scream is a good one.
And
he was if you want a deep, this is the deepest cut I'm ever going to make on this show. He was also in Ghoulies 3. Ghoulies Go to College, which was his first acting role.
All right, so we're going to run this back to SLC Punk.
Okay.
It's a wonderful movie. I absolutely loved it. It's also, this is like a weird thing. It's one of the best, one of the best examples on film that I've ever seen of how taking mind-altering drugs kind of looks and or feels. Like most of them are just like, oh my God, there's flying dragons. But like this movie actually took its time to like kind of, this is how these things affect your vision and stuff. It was really interesting. And the story's fantastic. And Heroin Bob is just like,
Heroin Bob's amazing.
Like,
I'm being told that he was in She's All That.
Oh, she was, yeah.
And 13 Ghosts. I forgot about 13 Ghosts.
Goodness gracious. Well, it's a new secret lair. It's a secret lair alert. It's a secret lair alert.
God.
Oh my God, secret lair alert.
I didn't think we were ever going to get any more. I was going through withdrawals.
I know, right? So the Astrology lands showed up. And this is the Capricorn bundle because that's the first month of the year is the Capricorns. Part of it's December, but you get the point.
Right.
Either way, this is where for $30 you can get 5 non-foils, and for $40 you can get 5 foils. Don't look at the commander deck we just sold you last month behind the curtain. Don't think about it. Don't look at it. Just buy these things. Now, these products are also very unique in terms of a secret layer, thanks to a little note down here in the bottom. So this product is not, quote, time box to demand. Pre-orders are only available for stock we have committed to print. Orders for this product are only available for printed stock, and we will reprint as necessary within 2022. To which I tweeted, isn't that just a store? It's just a storefront. Sort of, but pretty damn close.
Pretty close. Yeah. I mean, this is like reinventing, like they're just, what was the saying? Every 6 months, some tech bro accidentally invents the bus.
Oh, yeah.
Like this is, they accidentally invented
a storefront. They're like,
a storefront again.
Yeah. They're like, well, what if it's limited time? Well, it's not that limited.
So, but it's like, not marketed, like, so it does say that, but so many people buy 3 of every, secret lair, and so many people are going to buy this product thinking that it's like limited time only, and that's pretty shady.
So
I'm not a fan.
The phrasing on the site is interesting because this is like a phraseology change. It's not a limited supply; it is a limited time offer. Right? Like if you place so they're going to make them to order, right?
That's how it's going to sound like. But again, this is, one of the most important aspects of secret lair that this is completely ignoring is FOMO. That's fear of missing out. So the FOMO is just gone because I can get it at the end of this year and think about buying my Capricorn lands, or maybe I get some money, sometime in the summer, or maybe I'll go buy the lands for my sign, but who cares? And so like, I'm expecting the sales of this to be absolutely abysmal and for them to learn a very hard lesson because they have committed to this for the whole year. That's the second mistake here. First mistake is, what's a FOMO? And the second mistake is, you want to run this experiment for the whole year? You know how long a year is? You make over $1 billion during one of them. Like, that's a lot. That's a long time.
Well, the good news is that the last folks who are going to buy them are Sadgeittariuses. And if you're like me, you know that Sadgeittariuses are always going to buy. I have started to BS. I don't know anything about astrology.
I'm a fucus, so I don't know what you're talking about.
You're a fucus?
A what?
Yeah, you guys don't know science?
I'm a marzipan.
So the astrology dates are based on the where the sun is when you're born.
Right.
But the sun is no longer in the same line that it used to be 2,000 years ago when those dates were made. So there's actually, the sun goes through a 13th constellation for like 7 days. And that's a fucus, which is me.
That's awesome. When is that?
I'm December 7th, and it's like a 7-day period that it goes through.
So are they going to make a fucus secret lair?
I've literally never heard of this in my life.
Because you don't know science.
We
dropped some science on you.
No, Evan. The science is like that it's absolutely silly and ridiculous.
If we were going to have an astrology segment, you're going to be damn sure you're going to learn some astrology.
You're going to learn it.
The astrology is based on actual astronomy, right? Like it's the dates that the sun is in that constellation, which is just true.
Yeah.
And so because the world spins like a top, that changes over 2,000 years where we view the sun.
Oh, sure. I mean, there's a whole variety of ways astrology is silly and doesn't make a lot of sense. But
astronomy is great.
Astronomy is great. Astronomy high five. That put the James Webb Telescope thing up there.
I'll buy the Ophiuchus one if they print it.
They will not make that one. I assure you. But what we do have is
I'm a Libra, so I don't buy secret lairs.
I'm a Libra. I buy secret lairs. We're cool.
Oh, well, in that case, never mind.
I didn't get to buy in the last one, which makes me really sad, but whatever. from one of the vaguest announcements we could possibly cover this week is that Magic the Gathering and Post Malone team up for a year-long celebration of making Friday night magic. Now, I believe we spoke about this a little bit in a pre-show at some point, which is, again, when Post Malone originally expressed sort of love for Magic, talked about Magic, and got involved with some of the Commander shows, a lot of us, including myself for a while, was like convinced that, Wizards had pulled some strings here, talked to so-and-so, saw an Instagram post and just went wild. And that did not appear to have happened. But what does appear to have happened is that after all of that stuff and publicity and involvement, Wizards is doing something officially with Post Malone, and that's all good stuff.
Yeah. I don't know what this means, but it's a good idea to partner up with one of the most popular musicians on the planet.
I have mixed feelings. I have less mixed feelings than most content creators. A lot of people get very upset when Wizards does this, when they throw a bunch of money at Mr. Beast or whatever, because it's like, why aren't you supporting my content creators? That not mine as in the viewers, but the content creators who are already supporting your game and providing us safe places and promoting your products essentially for free. Why aren't you putting that money into them? So my counter argument to them is that Mr. Beast is never going to play again, right? His viewers came to Magic, the ones that stay, that's great for Magic, but it's also great for us. Mm-hmm. So that is good. I don't know what this Post Malone year-long thing entails, but and also Post Malone is in the Magic community far more than someone like Mr. Beast. So I think overall it is a step in the right direction, and in all boats, tides, that thing.
Yeah, well, I also note that it's about Friday Night Magic, which is a store-based program, and so this is good for the stores. So I'm all about it. This sounds fantastic, and good luck to him. So
yeah, he'd been randomly showing up at stores. So maybe it's something like Post Malone will randomly show up at F&M, or there'll be a cardboard cutout, and there'll be a giveaway, and enter this raffle to come to F&M with Post Malone, that kind of stuff.
So for this next story, I'm absolutely torn. Because in some ways I feel like they buried the lead big time. This happened before we stopped sort of doing news bits and kind of went to the year end stuff. There was a Magic Online State of the Game that came out, and it talked about some stuff and some releases and whatever and some promos and stuff, and then kind of at the bottom it was like, by the way, big change for next year is for next year and beyond is that Wizard of the Coast will be partnering with Daybreak Games to develop and publish Magic Online. Daybreak Games is a leading global publisher and developer of multiplayer online games and has a proven track record, yada, yada. As I understand it, Daybreak Games is kind of where long-term online multiplayer games go to live out the rest of their life. It is the villages for online games, as it were. But, it's also, I feel like, there was definitely a concern, and what it felt like a sort of growing long-term concern that, Magic Online is in trouble. Magic Online will be turned off one day. Magic Online will be sunsetted. Magic Online will be cut off at a certain point and said, this is all the Magic you get. You can play this Magic with these sets, and then that's it. And it doesn't feel like that's what this is necessarily doing, but I also feel like the way that this is happening is going to basically say that, no giant changes I would ever expect for Magic Online at this point. I would never expect another UI update. I would never expect anything to change for the collection or anything to change in trading or literally anything to change beyond the cards that they make in the future will show up in the client. But that's kind of where I feel it's going to stop.
Wow.
Yeah, the internet had two opinions, one of which was the idea that, we're having a second company with eyes on this that's going to hopefully be supporting it. So the idea was, Wizards hasn't been supporting it, so maybe this company will. I think that you're right that this is where games go to live out their farm life. They're going to keep and maintain the servers. They will probably give you new cards. I wouldn't even bank on that. And Wizards is now
I would say
off
that
the hook.
You're going to get 100% of the new standard releases, but I would expect, for example, less commander cards or, less conspiracy battle bond type stuff. They do mention stuff like they want to update the battlefield with a focus on multiplayer and commander play, yada, yada. I don't expect it. I'll be honest. I will be absolutely shocked. Please shock me. Please prove me wrong, because I have a feeling Magic Online will be the exact same thing you're looking at right now, 5 years from now, except it's got the newer cards in it. And that's it. So
yeah, I had not heard of Daybreak, but this is like where EverQuest lives, which so minimal life support, the occasional update possibly, but yeah, this is
the minimum necessary to continue the service, right? Like that to me is what it feels like.
Yes.
So
one of the viewers just mentioned as well that they actually sold the devs that are currently working on it. So those same devs will be moving over with the game, I guess, to work for the new company.
And that's great.
And that is an interesting note.
Right.
That I feel like that's good and also maybe bad.
It's good in that, there's power in institutional knowledge. There's power when something goes wrong and the guy who's been working on it for 3 years goes, oh, I know exactly what's happening. You know what I mean? That's great. But then the other half of that is that you're rarely going to get new, big or, radical ideas, let alone implement them.
Although maybe Wizards has been holding that dev team back.
Yeah.
And maybe the new company will, maybe this is a shiny new treasure that's better than what they've been working on. So maybe they will actually invest. Fingers crossed.
Send them to the farm. Farms are great.
Hey,
it's a great farm.
Let's run around. Let's have some fun. That'd be great. Look, again, prove me wrong, please. Let's go. Nerd Girl, tell us about the Arena Decathlon and what people thought about it, I guess is the way to put it.
Yeah, so I actually asked to speak about this for just a little bit because I saw that the overall consensus online on Twitter and in my community channel was that the Decathlon event was very bad, that it was terrible EV for each event, and I kind of just wanted to share with you guys my opinion on it. So it was basically a run of 10 different formats. Now, a lot of people said that a lot of the formats were garbage. My counter to that is that, it's supposed to be. You're supposed to feel a sense of accomplishment when you beat this weird, janky format you maybe don't like or don't play that's unique or interesting. So that in itself, I think, is kind of fun. Mm-hmm. And then the other counterpoint to it is that each event is sort of not supposed to have its own prize structure. It does pay you back and then a little extra, which is way more than any typical satellite for anything like a poker event. Right? So you're paying this small entry fee to get into the finals, which is then free to enter. And there are some big prizes associated with them. The 50-50 prize, going just 50-50 in the final, is 4,500 gems plus wild cards. And if you go 7 wins in your draft, you're going to get one of every single card in the new set, which is going to be an insane amount of value in the long run and save you a ton of wild cards, which is really cool. And then again, just to give you guys a little bit of a idea of how it worked for me, it took me 19 entries to get 10 tokens. So that's a loss of 8,000 gold, but I got more than 8 packs with my failed runs, so I about broke even. And then I'm going to be getting the 3 entries plus the February qualifier.
Yeah, so I did my 3. I got my one entry. I'll cross my fingers. I'm a little burnt out. I think a little bit on Arena currently. Again, it's where we're talking about playing Vintage Cube. But I do love the idea of a long series of events that tie into one bigger event. And it's not the end of the world. You know what I mean? This isn't for $100,000. It's for some cool cosmetics. It's for some draft tokens. It's for something that you can still make it interesting and unique. It can still be something that has stakes that we have to pay entry for. But, it doesn't have to be, top of the mountain competition. It's like, oh, we're playing this weird, silly format where all the decks are absolutely busted. That's great. I think that's cool. That can be a part of an event and not, have to be the focus.
Can I ask you how many entries you needed for your 3 Decathlon tokens?
I know I had to do the sealed thing 5 times because I'm not as good as you.
5.
But then the other ones I did my first try. So that was 7 for my
7.
3.
7 for 3 is, yeah.
So at 2,000 gold apiece, it took you 14,000 gold.
Yes.
Right? And then for the 3 tokens, you got 9,000 back. Mm-hmm. So it's only a 5K loss. And if you go 50-50 in your thing, you traded in 5K gold for 4,500 gems. Plus cosmetics and wildcards.
It's great.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I'm okay with that ratio. All that stuff is cool with me.
And it gave us something fun to do.
Right. Like, as much as I'm disappointed that they didn't do literally anything for the holidays on the client, I'm still happy about this.
I think that this was a good event. I think that I didn't see any of the hate. I will clarify. That might just be my echo chamber. That might be my social media. Mm-hmm. I didn't see any of the hate. It might just be from I don't know where
I saw
it came
some
from.
like, there's the Reddit threads and whatnot, and the people who are saying, I must get more EV out of this event than a normal event or whatever. And like,
sounds to me like this is way higher EV than most events if you're at least winning 40% of your games.
Right.
If you win 40% of your games, and let's say thought experiment. Mm-hmm. Let's say I want 3 sets of tokens, so 9 tokens, mm-hmm. right?
You only needed 8. You got a discount for the 3rd.
Great. I only need 8. So I want 40%. So I need to win 8, 16, 20. So I would have needed to pay for 20 entries, which is 40,000 gold. 40,000 gold to turn into 3 entry fees, and then I win 40% of my 3 cube drafts. I'm getting back a really good rate on gems to gold, even at 40%. It sounds to me like you could even do lower. Sure. And get your value back in terms of translation of gold to gems. Don't give them any ideas,
man. All right.
Yeah, don't give them any ideas. No, let's add more. All
right, so
I'll post this in the Magic Bikes channel for you guys, and I'm actually making a video on it. So I calculated best of 1 and best of 3 and how many bullets you would need to do based on your win rate. So I just posted it in our Discord channel.
Nice.
So like at a 50% win rate, it's you have a 10% chance to get there in best of 3. So hypothetically, you'll have to fire 9 bullets if that's your percentage. Yeah. And that's just straight numbers, obviously if you are a better drafter or whatever, and that's for any event. So it's super cool. I think the value is there just at the base. Now, if you don't enjoy playing Magic for Magic's sake, you're not necessarily going to be getting insane value. Mm-hmm. But the idea was I just wanted people to see it's like not bad.
Yeah.
Right. So moving on to Desperate Ravings, check out our altar sleeves. Support the show by using the code MagicMikes at checkout for 5% off anything in that store, including a set of exclusive sleeves featuring the Magic Mikes crew at altarsleeves.com/MagicMikes. Some Desperate Ravings I wanted to touch on this week was there was a tweet from Mana Curves. I'll put it on the screen so you guys can check it out. And it was one of those I was like, man, if I start a Twitter thread on this, I'm just going to go and go and go. So I'd rather be able to try to talk a little bit, have Ruben here who can provide some other aspects of it, and obviously Nerd Girl in terms of watching coverage and how you feel about it. The tweet was, as someone who was never really in the competitive scene, with SCG shutting down coverage, how is the health of competitive play? What does this mean to me? Competitive Magic was always this immovable object in the community, and there's a reason for that, and it's because for about 25 years, that's what they wanted it to be, is a big focus on competitive play and rewarding competitive play and all that good stuff. It's in some ways it's kind of surreal to see Wizards, as they had put so much time, effort, and dollars, so many dollars, in having really good coverage of their largest events. And then to have sort of someone, like Star City or CFB come behind them and say well, we're going to do sort of the Pro-Am version, and we're going to try to be as good as possible. There's going to be some competition in there. And ultimately it's going to be a really giant marketing arm for whatever company is holding the event. Now for Wizards, it was marketing Magic, and that's great. But for SCG, it was marketing SCG products, SCG in-store programs. It was having a stable of commentators who can improve over time, so you had a better experience and a better product over time. And they've, from all outside appearances, have completely abandoned that. Now, that's a huge problem for a few reasons, which is, when I was there to help build SCG Live, to take it from a GG's Live contract to SCG Live existed in the building, to hire Jeremy Knoll, to hire, video coordinators and directors, and to buy, and just the slow accumulation of stuff that you need to cover events the way that we cover them. Remember the stuff like the feature match placards, the giant tents to keep the glare out of there, the miles of cable that go bad from time to time, so you have to make sure you have extras of that stuff. The giant magical $50,000 box that was running all of it. So when you say things like, I hope somebody can just come and take the mantle. Well, there's infrastructure that existed. And not only that, to not do it any longer and to say to somebody, for $15,000, I can give you 8 to 10,000, up to 15 plus thousand Magic players watching your stuff for 3 days, or at least 2 days. You know, that to me was the sell, and that to me was what made it worth it. And that to me was where you could bank not only on sponsors of the stream and the tournament itself, and stuff like Twitch was helping you out, and you obviously had Twitch subscriptions, stuff like that, but also, you know, the ability to turn that into a marketing arm for the company. And that's where, you know, the growing of SCG in-store programs happened for so very long. And I just feel like ultimately this sucks. And ultimately, it's not going to be fixed overnight. It's not easy or cheap to get to where they were. And with Cedric and P. Stoli, like 100% fully stepping back, which, you know, they more or less step back anyway. The fact that when SCG didn't do coverage of their own event and their hometown, where it would never be cheaper, you just, like, a ship had sailed. And they still have all the hardware, and they're still able to make the programs like Versus Live and stuff like that. That's still all there. But the infrastructure to have a giant marketing arm just wither off and die just makes me really sad. That's where we're at.
I definitely agree. Like, we all want coverage to be around. I mean, even if you don't like coverage, I don't watch a ton of coverage, but it's definitely nice to have the option. I like to watch YouTube videos if I'm like getting, you know, prepping for a tournament, like to go see what won last month or whatever the case, especially for more Eternal formats, which is what Star City did. I think that's way more important than it is for, like, let's say limited gameplay, because there's much less, you know, reuse that they can have on that particular product. You could put it on YouTube. There's a lot of ad revenue involved. There's a ton of things that they're going to be missing out on. I am very curious to see why they think that is in their best interest. I am sure they have their reasons.
I'm sure. Like, they're usually financially based.
Right.
But, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously we've got more skin in the game than the average content creator, but I think that there's so many moving parts to this. One is we aren't going to know where Magic competitive play is until A, Wizards comes to any sort of decision.
Yeah.
B, the pandemic is the flu, right? Like when we get to a level where COVID is the flu, and you get a shot every year, then we'll be like, all right, this is our new normal kind of deal. And then we can get back to events. It's not like SCG is going to stop running events.
No, right? And they've already scheduled events, and that's cool. And there's going to be vended events, and you can probably expect cool stuff to show up at those events, and that's great, you know. But like, you know, what it feels like is penny wise and pound foolish. You know, you're gonna save $15,000, but you are going to lose so much in the long term in terms of experience for your team to know how to do the stuff. A whole roster of people who are helping you out commentary wise, and just go. And
they also can always restart it if they want to. I mean, it's not like they're throwing the TriCaster away.
Right. They didn't throw it and burn it all and set it on fire. The other part of it that I feel is like subtle, but is a thing, particularly if Wizards actually gets sort of back on their horse, is a lot of the stuff that Ruben did, that I did, that we kind of pushed for on SCG Live made Wizards coverage better. It made them up their game because they saw what we were doing, what we were able to do better or faster or more efficiently or whatever it is. and that was great. Competition makes everyone better, you know? And like, I want that competition to exist. So, you know, it's one thing when SCG or CFB rather is out of it, but man, when SCG was out of it, it was distressing.
It'll be interesting.
Cool stuff opens. Let's go.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, it'll be interesting to see who picks up the mantle eventually. It's not going to be soon.
I will volunteer to come cast for free. You probably don't want me, but if it helps make it happen,
if she'll do it for free, that's the best deal I've ever heard.
You be careful what you wish for. But no,
ultimately,
I just think it's sad. That's all.
My time working live events is over. I worked 40 weekends a year at SCG. I'm good without that.
You definitely lived the vagabond life there for a long while. Just one little quick hit here, which is it's hard to believe that Planeswalkers have now been around longer than half of the game's lifespan. To have grown up with Magic, to have seen Magic happen, to go into Lorwyn and be excited about Lorwyn and play Lorwyn, and that was such a really cool experience. To see Planeswalkers show up as this new weird thing, to see them make the mistakes with the Planeswalkers, you know, where Elspeth was unbelievable at 4 mana when everybody thought Sarkhan was the one that was going to be great. You know, Jace the Mind Sculptor, whatever. Even just back to the original 5, noting that Jace was like the best Planeswalker. Who cares if you gave your opponent a card? If you're able to stop everything they do, it doesn't really matter. And yeah, it's just, and or Garrick being the best one because it won the Pro Tour, which you could also argue would be, you know, one of the best. And so I don't know. I love Planeswalkers. I love the idea that Wizards, like, you know, somebody sat them down and said, you know, who's your Mickey Mouse? And they're like, well, we have these characters and there's like this Achroma thing, but they only show up in some sets. And they're like, no, you need like a cast of characters that we can rely on above the sets, above the worlds. And it's gotten us where we are today.
Can we get more War of the Spark? It doesn't need to be exactly, but I would love to play with more Planeswalkers as a limited player that doesn't just suck.
Yep.
I do hope they never cross the common Planeswalker barrier. Like, they've not passed the common legendary creature barrier either. And I'm happy for those things to just not exist.
Yeah. I think that War of the Spark, they could do another Planeswalker centric. You know, they've made more Avengers movies. We can make more War of the Sparks. I just hope that the Planeswalkers they print are not every single one of them is a 3-mana prison piece. Which was my main problem with War of the Spark Limited.
It can be an issue. That said, we've gone on plenty, so let's turn the corner here to the finisher. Earlier this week, Star City Ben, Mr. Ben Blyweiss, tweeted out a creative take on a few of Magic's most popular company names getting renamed. Big Lick instead of Star City, Goblin and Frog over Troll and Toad, Tarot Fiefdom rather than Card Kingdom, and of course Nifty Goods Company over at Cool Stuff Inc. But can we add some more? But we can add some more rather. So tell me, what's the next big MTG card shop, Ruben?
All right. NRG is a big name in Magic. It's also a big name in physics. But get ready for Inertia, the first law of motion in MTG sales.
Wow. There, girl.
All right, we all love TCG Player, but get ready for the next big thing in Magic, collectible cardboard competition contestant.com.
The CCCC.com. Well, one of the top companies in the sphere is CFB, but we've moved on to bigger and better combos. So I'm excited to bring the next big Magic e-commerce site instead of Channel Fireball, introducing Trailblaze.com.
Hey.
That ends another live episode of Magic Mics. Thanks for joining us here to discuss all things Magic. Thank you, Nerd Girl.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you, Ruben.
Hey, thanks.
That's right. Thank you all you listeners and or viewers here tonight. You guys are fan-freaking-tastic. We move here to, we want to thank our sponsor, CoolStuffInc.com, our co-sponsors, CardHoarder.com, and Alter Sleeves. Use the code MagicMics on AlterSleeves.com. My co-host, MTG Nerd Girl, and Ruben Bresser, you guys for watching and listening. I hope you support us at Patreon.com/MagicMics. Please follow, like, tweet, favor, share, subscribe to everything social that tells people we exist. Catch us online on our Discord, twitch.tv at Magic Mics, on Twitter at Magic Mics Cast, our Magic Mics subreddit, and like the Magic Mics page on Facebook. Or join us here next week, same time, same place, for another episode of Magic Mics. Good night, everybody.